Tommy is our youngest member of this season, and he's okay. He's clearly modeled off of TK in many ways, except without TK's Deus Ex Machina powers. And we've talked quite a bit about him already, so we're going to try to keep this short, similar to JP. In terms of relationships, we've already kind of gone over most of them. He's Takuya's little brother character in this. He's JP's friend. They get along quite well. He's had, I don't know if I would call them relationships with other people, but he does kind of bond with other characters because he's oftentimes needs to be looked after because he's so young. So you have Zoe or Koji connecting to him on some level, or, kind of watching over him. But other than that Toyland episode, I wouldn't say it's anything really noteworthy. But Tommy does actually have a bit of thought put into him. He has two arcs. One is him dealing with his family problems, and the other one is him learning to not be afraid all the time, which start to merge into one arc, but I'm counting it as two just because they kind of start out as two different ones. When Tommy's introduced to the story, he's just shown to be a scared, stupid little kid. He just won't stop crying and really wants to go home, even trying to tightrope walk across the rails over the abyss into nothing to get there, and then immediately regrets his decision once it's too late for him to turn back. Yeah, at the beginning of the season, Tommy is a huge pain in the ass. But luckily, this is not permanent. This is all part of the arc that pretty much expands almost to the end of the season. Because we have this moment where his babyish behavior almost gets him killed and Takuya has to save him. And that's where Tommy and Takuya get their first sort of relationship spark. And then, 2 episodes later, we see Tommy have to save Takuya by throwing himself into danger. And yeah, Tommy's need or want to prove himself to Takuya is one of the main drives for him growing up. And Tommy's growth in this way, it comes up, quite often. It comes up when he gets possessed by an evil dream monster. We have that couple of episodes I talked about already involving, Takuya's beast evolution. We learn about it in a flashback. And Tommy is one of the only characters that doesn't get completely forgotten during the second arc. He actually gets closure. But before we get into that, what causes Tommy's wimpy behavior exactly? Well, that's revealed to us in Sukakumon. And as you can probably guess, I'm not a fan of the way they handled this. So yeah, we know the story of this. Tommy is separated from the group. He gets confronted by a mysterious Digimon, who proceeds to try to use his specific character weaknesses against him. So yeah, Zoe had evil honeybees and a legendary warrior try to kill her. JP had an evil hip-hop volcano guy and an evil copy of himself that he had to fight. Tommy's main enemy in this is a overly helpful shaman.
But it's so hot here and I'm getting awfully thirsty.
Why don't you stay here and rest while I find some water?
Yeah, so the main plan here that this evil guy is going for is that he will help Tommy so much and befriend him so quickly that when the evil guy asks for a favor from Tommy, Tommy will do it no matter what because the evil guy did so many favors for him. So yeah, this plan is stupid, but it has context. You see, in a flashback, we learn that Tommy was the baby of the family. His parents would spoil him and would do anything he said, so he never learned to become self-reliant. And he always ignored the warnings from his older brother, who warned him that one day Mom and Dad wouldn't be there for him and that he'd have to learn to fight for himself. And Tommy realizes this lesson after the evil guy, who had done so many favors for Tommy, like getting him a glass of water and giving him a piggyback ride, demands that, as a favor, Tommy hand over his Digivice. Yeah, Tommy wises up really quick that this is not a good idea. In fact, I'm convinced that even without the flashback and character realization, Tommy still wouldn't have found this to be a good idea. But it's all crafted to tell us why Tommy is a wimp and why he was a crybaby at the beginning. You see, it wasn't because he was ushered off into a strange new world with monsters that were trying to kill him and he was stranded with no hope of getting back. it's because his parents were too soft on him. But it was also here to teach us a very valuable lesson. Friends don't do friends favors, expecting favors in return. And then after realizing this, Tommy just digivolves and kills the guy. Yeah, I'm not really a fan of this handling at all. It's not as bad as Zoe's or JP. Actually, I don't know which is worse. All three of these plans suck, but for different reasons. But like I said before, this is not Tommy's real conclusion to his character arc. Because, you see, do you remember how Tommy got to the digital world? Do you remember how he was pushed onto the train by two bullies? Well, I didn't, but this show did remember 40 episodes later. Because during the Royal Knight section of the season, where Takuya and Koji have been dominating, we actually get a little Tommy reprieve, where he gets to confront his tormentors with his new and improved self. Because, you see, apparently, Ofanimon didn't know which kids were supposed to be the special kids, so she just invited dozens of kids to the digital world, I guess, and then she told the one she didn't want to go home. But these group of kids decided they wanted to stay. And they're friends with this Angemon who protects them, and they pick on Tommy for still being weak and how cool they are. And then the Royal Knights show up and just murder Angemon because that was pretty much his whole reason for being here. And the Royal Knights manage to kidnap the bratty kids and Tommy and fly off somewhere. And it's up to Tommy to use his newfound courage to pull everyone together and earn the respect of the bullies by showing how courageous he truly has become. And save the day. Well, save the day at this part of the season has sort of a different meaning. It means you survive, but the rest of the digital world gets completely destroyed. But yeah, Tommy just earns their respect and shows how much he's grown by showing how strong and courageous he is now. Honestly, I'm just blazing through these because I don't really find any of these growth points very impressive. Like, for this season, it's fine, but in general, it doesn't really make me care about Tommy. I don't find them making me sympathize with Tommy or like Tommy more. I'm just more interested in how much more detail and effort they put into Tommy's character over Zoe or JP's character. I mean, seriously, in relativity to this season, the amount of attention he gets is mind-boggling. I mean, he actually got conclusion to his subplot outside of Sukakumon. Maybe the show's trying to make up for the fact that Tommy doesn't actually get to kill any of the legendary warriors. Yeah, he's the only one that doesn't get to do that. In fact, he's not really useful fighting-wise. Usually he's just there to get tossed around and make it easier for Koji or Takuya to kill the villain of the episode. But maybe that's supposed to symbolize that Tommy's not really much of a fighter, but rather a helper or some crap. I don't know. Let's just talk about final thoughts. So, final thoughts for Tommy. The show puts more effort into him than you'd expect. Maybe it's because his big relationship for this season is with the main character, I don't know. But he's definitely given a lot more development or development points than other characters. And honestly, while none of them really wowed me, it was kind of nice to see somebody break up the monotony that was becoming the Royal Knights arc and kind of bring us more back to the beginning of the season to show us how a character has truly grown. So in that respect, I kind of like Tommy. In the other respect, I don't. He can be very whiny and obnoxious. He's also kind of comic relief for this show because pretty much that's like a minor function of all the characters in the B team department. And I never really found him that particularly funny. His relationship with Takuya, it's fine for the show, but nothing that was really memorable. So for those reasons, I'm going to give Tommy a little more credit or benefit of the doubt, saying that he's not just a character here that is to fill some sort of demographic quota, and that he is here to actually be a character that we're supposed to relate to or sympathize with. And while I don't think his character problem was as interesting as JP's, it was definitely better handled and spaced out, and actually led to a somewhat decent conclusion. So now let's talk about evolutions. We got 2 for Tommy, Kumamon, and Korokakumon. Tommy's first evolution, Kumamon, probably breaks the mold the absolute most when compared to the other first evolutions. And for that reason, Tommy's evolution sticks out the most for me. It's not a guy in a power suit. It's a bear made out of snow that has a cannon that shoots snowballs. You've got nice conflicting green and orange colors. It's an overall fine design, minus my bias against designs that have bears. I just don't like bears. But other than that, it works well. It's got some pretty interesting attacks, like it turns into an icicle. I still like JP's better, but whatever. Tommy actually has a beast evolution that looks like a beast. This Yeti looking thing actually looks pretty badass. The dreads with spikes on the end might be a little bit overkill, but overall with the battle axes and the armor, I'm digging it. I actually like designs that have a lot of white on them for some reason. And Korokakumon doesn't look like a bear, it looks more like a tuskless walrus or something. I just wish we got to see it more in action. It's, from what I remember, it's not used that often, or at least not used effectively that often. But that's Tommy and JP, we're done with them. Next we're going to talk about Koichi, that should round out our heroes, and all we have left are the villains in the finale. Alright, so we're moving through this season, well, I wouldn't say fast, it takes me a month to make these now, but we're moving through them. Now I can't even say we're moving decently, this pace has been piss poor. Oh well. See you guys next time.
Hey, I saw you checking out my goods. You want to sample them? A little try before you buy, huh? Come here, bitch. Stand and deliver.